Step 1 is to mark the cover of the hub to the hub body so that you can reassemble it in the same position that it came off. And if you look at this one, if you look here, someone has previously already had this one apart and marked it, so that's good. Step 2 will be to remove these 6 bolts here which hold this top cover onto the hub body. Okay, when I pulled the top cover off the hub body, I noticed that the clutch mechanism here was actually not engaged to the connecting gear anymore, and as you can see, the stuff here is in pretty terrible condition. It doesn't look like it's been cleaned and serviced in a very long time. This here is actually a gasket, as you can see there, but it's in really terrible condition, so when I reassemble this I'll actually make a new gasket out of some velamoid packing material. Okay, the first step now is going to be disconnecting the turning mechanism from the clutch mechanism here. So if I can try and do this with one hand, essentially what happens is the turning mechanism has an angled part in it here, and the clutch mechanism just locks in place, and so there you go. You just push it down, turn it, and the whole mechanism will unlock, and it looks like that. This is your turning mechanism here, and the first step that I'm going to do now, that the whole thing is apart, is I'm going to remove the turning mechanism from the cover here, and basically that's easily achieved by removing this circlip that's holding it in there. So a small pair of pliers into there and there, and if I just squeeze down, there we go, circlip removed like that, and then if I press from the outside on the center, the turning mechanism will just fall out. Now be very careful at this stage. As you can see here, the little ball that goes on the side of the turning mechanism actually shot out, and you don't want to lose that. There's also a little spring located in the turning mechanism right in there, which you pretty much just want to take out and clean before reassembling the whole thing. So I'm now going to clean these parts using probably a scalpel to remove the old gasket, and then some kerosene to clean up all the parts. Okay, I've cleaned all these parts off. So you've got your circlip here, you've got your turning mechanism here, your little spring in your ball bearing, and this is the hub cover. And as you can see here, it's come up pretty clean. I just used a small wire brush to clean off all the old gasket, and it looks fine. So what I'm going to do next is just use some grease and put some grease in the hole, put the spring in, put the ball in, grease up the entire area around this seal here where the turning mechanism sits inside the cover, grease up the inside of the cover a little bit, and grease up the circlip a little bit just to make things stay rust free. Okay, so I've just reassembled and greased up this clutch mechanism after cleaning everything. It's a little bit tricky how this all goes together. Basically there is a groove inside this gear, and one of the bottom coils of the spring has to go inside this groove, and how you know you've got it in the right place is there are, if we look in here, the end of the spring there by my thumb, right in there, basically ends where the groove ends, and then the spring goes in, and you'll see the groove starts again there. And generally you can also notice what's going on if you look at these little locking tabs here. The dents or the splines where the locking tabs are generally dirtier than the ones that aren't like that, so you know you've got it in the right place, as you can see there. Okay, the next step is to disassemble and re-grease the main hub body. And to do that, the first step is to remove the outer circlip, which holds this inside bit to the outside bit, and To disassemble the inside bit, there's another circlip, but take the big one out first and then remove the small one. I found the easiest way to get the big one around the outside out is to use a small flat screwdriver and basically go in and wedge it out all around. These are all the parts that are assembled. This is the main incoming spline. This circlip here holds this washer and that spacer onto this part, and this part rotates inside that part. The washer, of course, being on that side. This big washer here holds this whole mechanism into the hub. Okay, so once you've cleaned everything properly and it's beautiful and nice and clean, just grease everything up reasonably well. Don't pack the grease in, but just give it a decent smear of grease. And the reassembly is basically the opposite of disassembly. To reassemble the clutch and turning mechanism, look for the little locking tabs at the bottom of the clutch. They obviously have to slide into the space in the turning mechanism, so it's a matter of pushing down like that and then turning the clutch mechanism. I'm just going to put the camera down to do it properly. When you do this, the hub should be in the released non-locked position, so I turn it all the way to the end, and I'm going to have to hold the hub in the free position, which it is, and just turn it like that, and it should just stay in its place just like that. The next thing I'm going to do is put my new gasket on here after I've of course greased up the inside of that, which has all gone together quite nicely at this stage. That inside bit should spin. We'll be able to turn freely and smoothly. The gasket that I'm using is just one that I've made out of some gasket material, some paper myself. I basically just traced the old one, and it's going to be the new one that's going on there. So I'm just going to grease up the gasket a little bit and reassemble the whole. When you're busy putting the turning locking mechanism into the body, there are a couple of tabs on the turning locking mechanism that need to go into the bigger slots on the body.